Lots of things that you know that you don't know that you know. Almost everything is like that, in fact. And it's rather obvious if you think about it, because if you were transparent to yourself and you knew everything you knew, you wouldn't have to study anything about psychology because you'd understand yourself completely. And we understand ourselves poorly. And so we have to study ourselves as individuals and then, you know, as phenomena in the world, as other people, and as mammals, and as animals, and as living things, and as political actors, and so on, just to get some minor notion of what's actually going on. And what that means in part is that you're more complicated than you can understand.
So, it sounds like you're just saying very funny things, but it's very interesting, the idea that you don't know what you know, okay? And so you know, but you don't know that you know. And it sounds like it's a clever statement or a silly statement, but you're actually thinking very deeply. It's a very philosophical point of view, that you know something, but you don't know that you know. There's a nice scene in the first Matrix movie where Neo goes in, you know, the hero of the story, he goes in to see his lady, the Oracle, and she tells him that he has what it takes, but he doesn't have the chops, as it were. And for a while, the next part of that movie, he thinks he's not really the real deal, and that Morpheus, who's sacrificing everything for him, does. And then he's faced with a situation where Morpheus is captured, and he's in a situation where he has to sacrifice, either Morpheus has to die, or he has to sacrifice his life, because Morpheus will not, you know, give it the information over to these other guys. He'll die in the process of torture and so on. So at that moment, Neo is facing failure. He's told failure, because either he lets Morpheus die, which is a failure, or he goes to do the impossible, and he'll definitely die, because logically he should. And as it happens in the movie, his superpowers come out and so on, but he should die. So he's failing one way and failing the other way, but he decides to do the right thing, as it were, to go in and try his best to get Morpheus out. That moment is him facing failure, and that moment is that he knows what to do. He knows how to be the hero, but he doesn't know that he knows. And in that moment he makes a decision, then he becomes the hero, then he becomes the man. He becomes the man not because he saved Morpheus. He becomes a man because he realizes that the only option is to save Morpheus. And that's, you know, these moments of clarity and realization. This is where the symbolic aspects and the mythological aspects of personality come out, because really everything is a story. And you have a story, and I have a story, and everybody on the planet has a story. And when we start to see our life as a story, the story that we're telling ourselves, and that it has mythological aspects, that's why when we dream, okay, when we're dreaming, we're overcoming or going through layers and levels of thoughts, and a lot of it is obviously just cleaning the impressions of the day and processing stuff. But you ever notice that a lot of your dreams are kind of anxious, frustrated, and it's like you're trying to deal with something complex or difficult to deal with. Maybe there's some kind of embarrassment or fear or public failure or something. There's always these elements which are surprisingly, tenaciously minor in a way, because you know, okay, if you dream of a tiger's trying to eat you and you're running away, fair enough, but a lot of the dreams we have, it's almost like we're just trying to deal with issues. And I feel that what's actually happening in the dream, apart from dealing with what impressions are today and the neurological cleaning and so on, is that the dream is us looking at our story. And that a big part of how we grow and develop as a personality is learning about our story and learning to change our story, learning to change the narrative that we say about ourselves. And that's a very, very important thing. That's where we get into the mythological aspects. So if you just see yourself, and sadly a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists and neurologists and neurological scientists just view human beings as a slab of meat and a bunch of behaviorists, and maybe there's not even a soul, maybe there's not even a real consciousness. I mean, one of the very popular theories in neuroscience, believe it or not, is that your personality, your ego, your subconscious mind, your drives, your desires, are just an attempt of the body to keep itself alive. And that the personality is a side product of the biology of the brain, so that your body will go off and eat food and reproduce. And that's the most ridiculous theory I've ever heard, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So, if you start thinking yourself instead as perhaps a mythological creature, that every human being is a mythological creature, and that there's something behind the myth, it makes sense. One final point I'll just touch on, and I've touched on this in other videos, and I'll put it in as well. Jordan Peterson probably won't talk about this, or not the way I would talk about it, is that if we look at psychoanalysis, the effort is to go from metonymy to metaphor, from boredom to interest. And, from a Freudian point of view, we are very emotionally oppressed in order to fit in society, which slows us down. And so the way we grow and develop is that we find metaphor in our life, we find meaning. Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, that the effort of life is about meaning, of course. Jung was all into self-actualization, into people basically growing and developing and becoming who they really are. And that's when you see yourself as a mythological being, and that there's far more levels, and there's an infinite possibility, and who we are is a very small version of who we could be, and there's actually no limits on who you could be, or who I could be, or how anybody could be. You can be much, much bigger. And the sadness, the great sadness of human life isn't that we have wars and all that stuff. The great sadness is that we think we're slabs of meat. The great sadness is that we think we're limited. We have a lot of potential in us that we're not tapping, and a very key thing is the very conscious awareness that has you watching this video gives you the ability to partake in life and have a range, a perceptual range, which is far bigger than you realize, and a depth of experience and meaning which is far bigger. And that's what I like about the point that he's saying in a very roundabout way, because how the hell do you talk about this subject anyway? And we just talked about 5 minutes of that 1.5 hour lecture, which is basically that personality is mythological elements. And if you see yourself in a mythological way as a deeper human being with metaphor and meaning, you're going to have a lot more understanding of what it is to be a person, and that there's mythological elements to the story you're telling yourself, either negative or positive. And that a weird thing, if we really get deep into it, is that we need to change at these symbolic levels deep within us, thoughts, feelings and ideas and beliefs we have to have of ourselves. We kind of have to slay the dragon within ourselves, even though there is no dragon. But symbolically, we have to overcome the limitation, because that's how the subconscious mind works. The subconscious mind thinks in symbols, and that we symbolically have to go through births and deaths, and we have to go into the underworld and come back out again. And that's the mythological personality. So I might do more on this. Check out his video. His video is very interesting. The mythological aspects of personality. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.